All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, December 11th, and we got the NBA back for us with a jam-packed slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total, but all my final plays, if you do want to fade me, those plays are going to be in the pinned comment, so make sure to keep an eye on that. Always updated throughout the day before game time. Now, we didn't have any games yesterday to recap, obviously, but coming off of a nice little 1-0 night from the in-season championship game, we had the Lakers minus 3.5. It is clear that LeBron James wanted that win, so we shall take the cash. This is like the miniest of mini sweeps, right? A 1-0 night. No money gun necessary, anything like that, but we'll take the 1-0 night. And in terms of our ride of the day, that's where the fun stops. Undefeated comes in with Tyrese Halliburton under 2.5 turnovers. Now, made a good case for it. Tyrese, wanted this, is going to be locked in this game. Lakers don't cause that many turnovers, but Tyrese Halliburton, pretty much hit the over here by halftime. Wasn't his best there, so under 2.5 turnovers does not come through for us. But if you guys do want to be the ride of the day, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me an absolute banger of a pick. I'm jumping on board with one person's pick and giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. We've had a couple ride of the day L's in a row now, so let's get back on track with a dub. Use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Now let's go ahead and jump into game number 1. We got Detroit taking on Indiana. Detroit, they've been this weird team. I've said it all along that they're covering big numbers, especially when at home, blah, blah, blah. I don't think 6.5 is the biggest of numbers right now, especially Indiana coming off of, I guess you could say, a heartbreaking championship loss. They're probably going to come out here pretty damn fired up. So I like the Pacers here minus the 6.5 points. The total sitting at 248.5. That's a little bit too high for me. I think that this game finishes, right around the 235-ish mark. But still, that's even 10 points of margin from what I have this pegged at as to what we're looking at from a total there. So give me the Pacers minus the points and then the slight lean towards the under. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we ultimately do roll with either of those plays. Next up, we have Orlando taking on Cleveland. Orlando favored at home here, -2. The total sitting at 225. I do think, like I've said, this is an Orlando team that's totally unsung in terms of how good they've been. And the Cavs aren't going to have Evan Mobley here either, which, that's definitely a big knock to them. They also have a fairly decent look-ahead spot against Boston. They have 2 games against Boston in a row. And by the way, guys, if you know Jordan from the Final Round, the YouTube channel out there, I'm sure you guys do. If you don't, go check it out. We have a cool little thing coming up for that Celtics-Cleveland series. So go check him out if you have not the Final Round. But nonetheless, guys, I do think that this is a different Cleveland team without Evan Mobley. I think they may be looking forward to the Celtics game here, so I think this could be a spot where Orlando gets them. And Orlando at home this year, 10-2, playing really good basketball, and I think without Evan Mobley, again, they match up pretty damn well against this Cleveland team. So I'll lean towards Orlando. Some books even have this at -1.5, so maybe even worth just considering them on the money line altogether. In terms of a total, 225.5. We've seen high-scoring games and low-scoring games from both of these teams. Orlando's defense has started to remain pretty damn consistent, whereas Cleveland's offense has been kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but not all that crazily good. And then vice versa. You have an Orlando offense that's pretty much down the middle, right? Scoring the 13th most points in the league, so pretty much league average. I think they only score 0.3 more points than league average. And then you have Cleveland, who their defense finally starting to come along, a top 10 team when it comes to points against as well as field goal percentage against. So I'm going to lean towards the under here. I think this could be a defensive bout to some degree here because neither one of these offenses is ultimately crazily explosive. So give me the under 225.5. Guys, before we continue on with the slate, you gotta go check out Sleeper. I've been telling you to do so for a while now, and now there's no better time to do it. You can get your deposit matched up to 500 buckarooskies. Are you kidding me? 500 bucks. Link in the pinned comment, guys, and every entry that you make gives you an entry into a giveaway, and $1 million giveaway that they're doing on December 26th. Go check out Sleeper, my favorite DFS pick'em app right now. I'm firing on Prize Picks and firing on Sleeper. Those are my favorite 2 pick'em apps out there right now, guys. Go get that deposit match. Use the link in the pinned comment. Sleeper also offers more plays than all of the other books out there, or apps out there. What I like about them is each and every pick you select has its own payout multiplier, meaning you don't have to follow that fixed payout structure like, say, the prize picks or underdogs of the world. You can have a 2-man slip that pays 4x versus the standard 3x, okay? So go check out Sleeper, guys. That link is in the pinned comment. Let's go ahead and get back into the slate with this Philadelphia and Washington game. So we told you last time, I was like, that's just way too many points for Philadelphia to lay against Washington, right? Washington was at home. Now Philly's at home, which they are a different ball club, but more importantly, Washington, 2-11 on the road this season. So I think it's okay and somewhat safe to lay the 11.5 points. Now, before you go and hit place bet button, keep your eye on the injury report. Joel Embiid is questionable in this one. He, played through his injury in the last game, but he was hobbling and limping towards the end of the game. So they're saying that he's battling a knee alignment issue. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. The spread right now indicates that he is going to play. I imagine this drops probably to like 8.5 or 7.5 if he doesn't. But I'm not taking, this huge spread without Embiid in the lineup. If Embiid plays, I do think that it could be a decent spot for the Sixers here to, I don't want to say bounce back because they won by 5 points, but they only beat Washington by 5 points last game. Washington's a way worse team, so maybe a spot to bounce back and look a little bit better. Total sitting at 244. It's another one where I'm going to wait to see if Embiid is going to play. If he plays, I don't mind it. We've seen so many teams drop so many points on Washington this season, and we just saw it. The Sixers this year have dropped 146 and 131 against this Washington team. Washington's defense, I don't have to tell you that it's the worst in the league, right? They're averaging over 125 points allowed per game. So I think this is one where, I don't necessarily like the over because it's too high, but I'd be silly to lean towards the under, right? So this is most likely a pass for me, but it's going to be over or pass because I don't think you can confidently take an under in pretty much any Washington game, to be honest. Charlotte taking on Miami. Miami only 4-point favorites on the road here. And I do say only because I think they are a much better ball club than Charlotte. Now, we've had, weirdly enough, a pretty good finger on the pulse for this Charlotte team all season long, whether we're leaning for them, betting on them, or away from them, right? But this is a Heat team that, I think they're kind of due for a statement-esque type of a win. Charlotte, I told you guys last time, I said that line was a little bit fishy against Toronto. Charlotte ends up winning that game outright. Now, Bam Adebayo still out. Highsmith still out. I think RJ Hampton's still out. Martin's questionable. Duncan Robinson probable. Obviously, Tyler Hero doesn't come back for another week or two. So you do have plenty of injuries here. But Mark Williams doubtful here for Charlotte. That's huge for them. Obviously, LaMelo Ball still out. So this is going to be kind of a battle of bad-ish teams, and at that point, the Heat still have a better team than Charlotte. If Mark Williams and LaMelo were playing, I think this could be a spot where, Charlotte might catch them off guard, but no, I think Miami wins this one by more than 4 points here, so I'm going to lean towards them. The spread is sitting at 22.5 right now. It's tough because I think that this one finishes right around 224, so I lean towards the over, but only with a 1.5 of, difference there from what the line is set at right now. But nonetheless, still leaning towards the over, mainly because we've seen this Miami offense, be able to put up points against some of these higher paced, less defensive teams, right? Indiana, they scored 142 and then 129 against. You have a Charlotte team that obviously doesn't play much defense. Last time they did play was earlier in the year. They scored 111 against them. Miami wins 111 to 105. That was two healthier teams, right? But I think that the Charlotte team, they've just been letting up plenty of points. Minnesota scored 123 on them. Minnesota's a defensive ball club. Brooklyn scores 128 on them. Orlando, who doesn't play that fast, right? Or they're top 10 in pace, but scores 130. I think that Miami could get a little offensive boost here and score towards the 120s, which makes that 222.5 a little bit more tempting. All right, Atlanta taking on Denver here, and the trap spotter's out again. I smell a trap here. I see it because this Denver team obviously hasn't been playing good. They're really in a slump right now. They've lost 3 in a row. You would think that this could be a good bounce back spot against Atlanta. This is an Atlanta team that doesn't play much defense. Denver has, in the last few years, have won 4 of the last 5 against Atlanta. But the spread's at 2.5. I don't like it. This tells me that Atlanta is going to keep this game close, or hell, even win the game outright. Now, you might be thinking, Okay, well, how's Atlanta at home versus Denver on the road, right? Atlanta's pretty bad at home. They're 3-6 at home this season, which again kind of speaks to the line here being like, why is this only 2.5 then? Now, Denver has struggled on the road as well. We've talked about that, but to me, I'm reading this line saying, okay, I want Denver to bounce back. It seems like it's too easy for Denver to bounce back in this one, right? But you look at this and it's like, what's going on here? Why is that line like that? Trae Young may not play in this game. He missed last game. He's probable, so he probably does play, but he's on the injury report. Hunter's on the injury report. Jalen Johnson's still out. Jamal Murray is probable here. It's like, this is almost a recipe for Denver to win by a boatload, yet the spread is at 2.5. So I'm going to lean towards Atlanta. I'm trying to sniff out that trap. We've been pretty good at spotting traps this year. So we're going to roll with it and trust what we're seeing here. Now, the total sitting at 240. This is another one where it's like, you're probably silly to be taking an under in an Atlanta game. Like, they've been allowing a bunch of points. They're scoring a bunch of points as well. This Atlanta offense shoots the second most times in the NBA right now, ranking second in field goal attempts. They're scoring the second most points. In terms of defense, they're allowing the fourth most points in the entire league. And I believe the fifth most shots against and fifth most three-pointers against, if I'm not mistaken. So teams are firing at will against this team. It's a high number at 240, but honestly, the over is probably the only game that I would confidently or, you know, I guess sort of validatingly, if that's even a word, take in this spot, because again, I'm a little perplexed by that line and by the teams, because when I first saw this matchup, I said Denver by 1 million, and then saw that line and I'm like, okay, well, the books aren't this wrong, right? So I'll lean towards Atlanta, but I do like the over 240. I wish it was 235-ish, but it is what it is. All right, one more break from the action here. I want to talk to you about OddsJam. If you haven't checked out OddsJam yet, go ahead and do so. You can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. If you like what you see, you could sign up and get 25% off your first month. They have tons of tools to help bettors like you and me beat the sportsbooks. First off, we'll look at the positive EV screen. This is really great. It helps identify all of the breaks in the market and the mispriced lines. For example, this soccer game, right? I know squat about soccer, but FanDuel has a plus 164 play, whereas the actual odds should be right around 152. One click, you can go and hammer that and bet it. They also have a fantasy optimizer for prize picks, underdog, sleeper, that type of thing that show you the most valuable plays that are out there right now and give you a % chance to hit. And then what I really like is this sportsbook screen. Now, I have it set to the 4 main sportsbooks here, legal in Mass, but if you wanted to look at all of the sportsbooks, literally every play on every sportsbook, you can look at and compare the odds to make sure you're getting the best price out there, guys. Why would you buy a car, you know, for 15 grand if you could literally walk 5 steps down the street and go buy it for 10 grand, right? Like, look at all of this, every single type of play as well, player props, totals, that type of thing, guys. It is well worth it. I use Outlier on a daily, OddsJam on a daily basis. Go ahead and check it out. I also use Outlier on a daily basis. The tools I have, I feel like we're like the Avengers. Like, every single tool I have helps so much with betting on sports. But go check out OddsJam, guys. Again, 25% off your first month. If you do sign up, you can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. Go ahead and check it out. All right, last break. I promised that before we get to the rest of this slate, guys. We're looking at the Knicks taking on Toronto. And I feel like these games are usually fairly, intense games and close games. We saw one game so far this year. The Knicks didn't really make it like that. 119 to 106. This is a Knicks team that we can say is definitely better than Toronto, and I'm confident saying that, but I don't know about 5 points better here. I think I lean towards Toronto. Though they're on the road, I wish they were at home, but I'm going to lean towards Toronto here in this spot. No Mitch Robinson, and Jalen Brunson's on the injury report as well. He hurt his ankle in the end of the last game. He's probable here, but still, if you see the picture, it's a pretty bad ankle injury, so something to note there. If he's hobbled, not 100%, this is going to be the Julius Randle show, and then they lose a big rim protector in Mitch Robinson, right? So Jakob Poeltl could have a decent day as well. So keep an eye on that injury report, but give me Toronto here plus the points. They're kind of due for a win as well. They kept this game to 7 points, or what was it? 13 points against the Knicks last time, and that was with a healthy Knicks team. You know, you take out Brunson at 100%, maybe he plays at 70% today or 80%. You take out Robinson. I think that this goes down to a game that, yes, the Knicks could win, but it's going to be like a 114 to 112 type of game if I had to put my finger on it, which also kind of tips my hand at the totals. I like the over in this spot as well. This has been a Toronto defense that you can't really necessarily trust. Though they're not allowing a boatload of points, they're actually allowing plenty of scoring at ease. So like I said, not a lot of points, but bottom 10 team in terms of field goal percentage against. And in their last 5 games, it's been even worse, especially on the road as well. So I'm going to lean towards Toronto to cover this one, but I like the over 221 in this spot as well. All right, Milwaukee laying 11 at home here, taking on Chicago. The total sitting at 233.5. My favorite play in this spot's probably going to be the under because I don't think Chicago keeps up with Milwaukee in a sense of scoring. So I like the under immediately, but I'm also going to lean towards Milwaukee here. This Milwaukee team obviously has the talent. Obviously, you know, had a little bit of a shaky run, but they've still won 7 of their last 10 games. They've covered 6 of their last 10 here, 2 of their last 3. And I do think that, you know, the Chicago team has its issues here. Now, Chicago even won last time they played. I think Milwaukee won the first meeting this year. I forget the score, but then Chicago wins in OT in their last meeting. Milwaukee has a little bit of a revenge spot here as they come back to the house. And the fact that this line's only going up tells me that Vegas is being like, all right, yeah, we will play this one up to like minus 12.5, right? So give me Milwaukee here minus the points. But again, my favorite spot in here is probably going to be the under. The under cashed in this game, even going to overtime last time they played here. So I could see this being like Milwaukee 120 to, you know, Chicago 105, right? Well underneath that number. Next up, we have Houston taking on the Spurs here. This has been a surprising Houston team. I haven't fully gotten the beat on them. We did just bet on San Antonio a couple nights back, and they were one of the only plays we lost that night, so it's kind of like a sour taste in my mouth. But to be honest, this 13-5-1 is the Rockets against the spread numbers. They're 9-1 at home. Now, keep in mind, they're 1-8 on the road, so if you're going to bet Houston, make sure it's when they're at home, and they're at home today, so I'm going to take a peek at that. They just beat Denver outright as 9-point dogs. Yeah, this team's pretty good. I mean, in terms of injuries, nothing major to note for them as well. Brooks is questionable, but I think they'll be okay even if he doesn't play. Give me Houston here. I don't love the number, how big it is, but yeah, I think that this is a safe Spurs team to bet against, right? So I'll take Houston minus 8.5. In terms of a total 224, I went back and forth on this one because I literally have this game pegged right around 117 to 107. You do the math, that isn't really too far off from the total that we have here, right? That is 224. So I'm going to stick to the under just in hopes that Houston's defense does what it's been doing and the Spurs really struggle to score, and maybe they stay in the low 100s, giving this a pretty good chance to hit. All right, guys, if you're still watching right now, go ahead and comment 17. Let me know that you're part of the Fade Squad and not a guppy. Don't be a guppy. Guppies don't make it this far into the video, and even if you do and you consider yourself a guppy, it means you're not a guppy. You're part of the Fade Squad if you're making it this far into the video. But go ahead and comment 17. Let me know you made it this far. We have OKC laying 12.5 at home against Utah. Similar to the Bucks game that we looked at here against Chicago, I think this is a similar story that this line is telling us, that, you know, the Bucks don't feel vulnerable here. OKC is definitely the better team, coming off of a decent win against Golden State too. You know, they had to battle back, get it to OT, or was it OT or last second, and go and win that game, right? So give me OKC here minus the 12.5. I doubt that makes its way into a final play, but what I'll say is that this is an OKC team that, when they've got this season, it's been because they run small or Holmgren's gotten overpowered, blah, blah, blah. Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler, pretty non-arguably their 2 best rebounders on Utah's side of things, are both out in this meeting, right? So you're looking at this like, okay, well, who's going to rebound the ball, right? Like, a disadvantage that the OKC Thunder usually have or have had in the past is now not there, right? They are literally, I believe, a bottom 2 team in defensive rebounding, and then a bottom 5 team in offensive rebounding. And this Utah team is a pretty good rebounding team. Without Lauri Markkanen, without Walker Kessler, I think that they're going to have some problems on the Utah side of things. So one of the biggest weaknesses gets stripped away here. So I'll take OKC here. In terms of a total 233, I could see OKC putting up like 130 in this spot, just because Utah plays at such a pace, but not an efficient pace, and they don't play very good defense. So yeah, I'll lean towards the over 233 in this spot, but I would look at, I might look at the OKC Thunder here in terms of a team total. If we can get this 124.5 maybe, or something like that. I know it may be unrealistic to hope for a number with good odds like that, because again, I think they'll score a bunch of points. But let's see if I check really quickly what we can get a quick team total. Over 124.5 is plus 114 odds. I don't hate that. It would be a long shot, but it may be well worth it. Even, you know, 120.5 minus 166, you're paying a lot of juice. 4 more points, you're getting plus money. Might make sense. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. I could see that being a final play. All right, next up, we have the Pelicans taking on Minnesota here. Pelicans, in terms of a spread, this one kind of surprised me that the Pelicans are favorites at home. Now, they're playing decent basketball. I'll give them credit, but they've been kind of win-loss, win-loss. Definitely an in-season tournament here, but for a while now, whereas Minnesota is on fire here. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. They've won 6 in a row. Anthony Edwards is questionable in this spot, which, if we're reading this line, maybe that -3, -3.5 tells us that, he's probably not going to play. But regardless, I do still think that this could be a spot in which, Minnesota edges them out. So I'm kind of on the fence in terms of this spread. If New Orleans was +3.5, I'd be all over them. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I don't think I can pass up Minnesota getting 3.5 points against a team that I do think that, they could out defend, if that makes sense. Like, they can keep this game close regardless. So I'll take Minnesota in the points, even if Ant-Man doesn't play. If he plays, this probably moves its way into final play territory. If he doesn't play, I guess it just sort of stays as a lean. But the total here is sitting at 222. I think this one gets up into the high 220s. We've seen Minnesota, obviously, this defense all year long has looked rock solid, almost allowing, they're allowing a crazy low amount of points per game here, 105. That is 10 points below league average here. But I don't necessarily see the Pelicans offense really stepping up to the plate. Their last 3 games here, the defense has taken a decline here. 124, 117, and 133 allowed. This is a team in which I could see the I almost said Minnesota Twins. Then I almost said Minnesota Pelicans. Yikes. The Minnesota Timberwolves here, who averaged 113 this year. I could see them getting up closer to 120, which would make this 222 a fairly easy play. So we're going to lean slightly towards the over. All right, we have Memphis taking on Dallas here. Kyrie Irving already ruled out for Dallas. They are just 2.5-point favorites on the road here. I think it's a good spot for them. I don't necessarily see, I guess I can't really see exactly why they're only 1.5-point favorites now on some books as well. But no matter what number you get there, I think they're a lot better than that. We saw them stomp Portland, which is what we wanted them to do, right? They've now, they beat their last game. They beat Utah 150 to 100 pretty much, right? Winning by almost 50 points, or was it 50 points? Against Portland, they won by 13. They're 10-point favorites. I see this being a good spot for them. They're a decent away team this year too, 7-4 on the road, whereas Memphis is just 1-9 at home. Most of their wins, 5 of their 6 wins this season have come on the road, which is kind of funny. But yeah, give me the Mavericks in this spot. In terms of what Memphis has done in their last 8 games here, they haven't covered this 2.5-point spread in 5 of them. So more likely than not, they fall behind, and they don't really have the offensive power, obviously, until Ja comes back, or some of these injuries that they have. I don't think they have the offensive firepower to keep up with a Dallas team. This Dallas team, like I said, Kyrie Irving is ruled out. That's obviously going to be a huge knock to them, but we've seen them kind of play fairly well without him in the past, and obviously you have Luka there. So give me Dallas here minus the points. In terms of a total, 227. I think this one gets to 230, so I'll confidently lean towards the over. I like that spot. I don't know if Memphis really carries all their weight, but if they do, if Memphis carries the weight and keeps this game close, I think this is an easy over of 227. All right, next up, 2 of my favorite teams to bet on this season. We got the Kings taking on the Nets here. Right now, total's at 234.5, excuse me. The total sitting at, the spread, I can't even speak now. We're getting late in this video. The spread is at 4.5 here in favor of the Kings. First and foremost, my favorite plays in this game is going to be some sort of a same game parlay. We'll identify some of the weaknesses and player props that go into this game because I do like this spot. But I do lean Brooklyn here, plus the points. This is a Brooklyn team that I've said it all along, and I feel like I'm going to fall into a trap at some point of trusting Brooklyn more than I probably should, but they're 16-4-1 against the spread this season. They're yet to play Sacramento, but I don't really identify anywhere that Sacramento would be much better than Brooklyn in terms of a matchup either, right? So I like the spot for them. No major injuries to note here, but as long as these guys show up, Cam Thomas, Dinwiddie, Bridges show up in the offensive department, and then you have even Cam Johnson, if he plays a good game, or Nick Claxton, I think that there is some sort of, they can negate Sabonis, negate Fox, and Herter, who has been such a hit or miss type of a player as of late as well. I think that this is a good spot for Brooklyn to keep this game close. Now, I'll tell you where the confidence level lies, right? If this is a 2.5-point spread, I'd probably look at Sacramento. So I'm only saying that Brooklyn keeps this game close and within 4 points. I'm not saying that they necessarily win the game outright. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but I still think this is a good Sacramento team, right? In terms of how they've been playing too. They've won 2 of their last 3. They look good against the Suns, but Brooklyn arguably has looked better. The only knock on them would be that they really haven't played anybody in a while. They've won 6 of the last 7, but they've played Miami, Chicago, Toronto, Charlotte, Orlando, Atlanta, and Washington. You can give the Atlanta win some credit, I get that, but also of those 7 games, 6 of them were at home. So I understand if you're on the Sacramento side of things. In fact, my main play in this is going to be searching for some sort of a same game parlay with player prop opportunities here. So if you're on Sacramento, don't let this talk you off of it. In terms of a total, again, sitting at 234, obviously I'm looking into a same game parlay in this. I think there's going to be a decent amount of points scored, so I'm going to lean towards the over as well. Clippers taking on Portland. Portland obviously did not look all that great against Dallas a couple nights back, but they had covered prior to that game. They'd covered 5 of their last 6 games here. They played the Clippers earlier this season, and they didn't cover that game, but they came pretty damn close. Give me Portland here. Against the spread, they're way better than they are this season. They're not a very good away team, and the Clippers play well at home, so kind of like last game. If you're on the opposite side of me here, I wouldn't go and switching up your bet just because Ev said so, but 13 is a hell of a lot to lay. Give me Portland plus the points. Total sitting at 220. I guess I like the under here, which kind of rolls right into like it's a 220 total. You're getting 13 points. Like if this is a low scoring game, I'm going to like the points, right? So give me the under as well in this spot. And that's going to wrap for today's video, guys. If you made it this far and you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well. Long video, but it was a jam-packed slate. Hope you guys did enjoy. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.